Welcome to Growing Pains, a podcast of the Sumner County Republican Freedom Caucus. I'm your host, Deanne DeWitt. Today we are going to talk about fair and trustworthy elections. At the center of government is having a system that voters trust. And so today we are joined by our administrator of elections for Sumner County, Lori Atchley.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
We got just past your super busy season, or one of your super busy seasons.
One of the three of this year.
Are
yes, ma'am.
Catching your breath a little bit?
Absolutely. We're already geared up for August. It started before the May even was concluded.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, we're going to learn a lot today.
Okay.
I hope our listeners learn something new because, showing up at the polls and voting is something that not as many people do it as they should, but a lot of people do. They don't really know a lot about the engine that makes it possible and that makes it feel like you're stepping into something so trustworthy. So I'd love for us to start by giving listeners a chance to get to know you, Lori.
Okay.
You've been serving this role for 15 years.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get here? What led you to this kind of?
I don't actually know. I took it as the legislature turned over from the Democratic majority to the Republican majority. And so across the state, a lot of administrators were replaced. And that was not uncommon across multiple counties in Tennessee. So I was approached about the position. It had been held by a gentleman for about 16 years, and then a lady that worked under him held it for about 5 years. And then I came in, did not have really, other than working on political campaigns, did not have a lot of election experience per se, but had a lifetime of running businesses, multiple industries, self-employed, construction, appraisal, real estate. And really, the business of elections is just that. It's the business of running elections. Everything we do is according to Title II of the state of Tennessee statutes. It's by law, and it's following the rules. And that's exactly what we do.
Well, that makes it pretty simple. And so your background, very detail-oriented, the kind of the business experience you had, it attention to detail and getting things right.
That's really what it's all about.
A common thread.
I had a business degree from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, worked in corporate accounting for a few years, and my mom said, this just doesn't fit you, Lori. And I said, well, Mom, if you know how to run the number side of anything, you can run any business. And that's absolutely the truth.
Well, makes sense. Okay. Well, see, I've learned something already. So it doesn't take much. There's so many layers to the things we do and that we take for granted. So thank you. That's great. I'm glad to know that background. I know you have overseen countless elections during a period of intense growth for our state and nationally, a pretty heightened attention to election integrity. So let's kind of just transition from like some of that background. What keeps you grounded personally in terms of approaching these elections during the midst of these things I just mentioned?
Well, it's very critical. It's very critical for our community. It's critical for our state. It's critical for our country. And everything starts right here. For Sumner Countyans, it starts right here in Sumner County. And it goes all the way up to the federal level. So doing it right here makes a difference. You made an excellent point that over the years you've heard a lot, not in Tennessee. Tennessee is number one in voter integrity in the country. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But you hear other states where they had more people vote in a precinct than were registered there. We've heard about dead people voting, all of these kinds of things. We ensure that our voter rolls are clean, they're clear, that the person lives where they say they live, that they're legally allowed to be here, that they're not felons. I mean, our voter rolls are very clean, and that is the basic step to making sure your elections are, in fact, fair and honest.
Well, that's a pretty simple point, and I know what you're sort of underlying some of that is the staff that you have.
My staff is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm beyond blessed. They are. They feel the same way. They take a lot of pride in their work. If you look across the state, they're not paid what they should be paid, as a lot of industries, but they do it because of their belief in the integrity and the importance of elections in our county and in our state and in our country.
Yeah. Well, and I do know that it has something to do with the environment that you create and the support you give them. And I know you go to battle for them.
I do.
And you have more than once. So speaking of going to battle, I guess that's probably not a terrible place to just mention. I know you've had a lot of, it's just been a lot of tension with the county commission over the last several years, and you have had to go to bat.
Well, yes. The former county mayor, Anthony Holt, started transitioning us into our current building at 1019 Union School Road. And the reason for that was because we were getting the new voting machines. And the reason for the new voting machines, our voting machines were over 25 years old. It was time anyway. But the legislature passed a law that said we had to have VVPAT, which is Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail, which basically means that anyone that's voted has seen it. When you vote now, you make your selections, you hit the button the first time, your selections appear on a screen. And you verify that that's who you did, in fact, intend to vote for. If you didn't, you can go back and start over. But if you do, you press and that rolls up. But we do have a paper audit trail, should it ever be necessary. But those machines basically doubled in size, and they went from a suitcase type machine that could be carried by, pretty much anyone to a two-man lift machine that weighs 54 pounds. So they cannot be stacked because of the weight. So I approached the county mayor, and he told me about this building at 1019. I did not know it existed. I know there's been some discussion about where I got the key. I didn't even know the building was there. So the county mayor took me up there, and my assistant administrator and one of the election commissioners, and we looked around. And at that time, the state of Tennessee was still in the building, just the office part, nothing in the back. So we transitioned, initially just doing training in the warehouse area, and they were shutting down that center anyway. It was a rehabilitation center. They had 5 across Middle Tennessee, and they were consolidating them. At the time, they were not going to renew the lease, so it just seemed like a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And Mayor Holt put us in there, and we actually had our machines delivered there. We set up the tables. They're there. It's an ideal setup. We don't get them up and down off the tables. They're set out. We program them, everything we need to do. So the least handling for them, the better. Everything was going along fine. The election happened in 2022. The new commission did not, for some reason, want us in that building. And so a lawsuit ensued because we were 1 foot in and 1 foot out. We were 1 foot in 1019 with the machines and 1 foot in 355 Belvedere with my staff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the funding became an issue. And so a lawsuit was filed, and it is still ongoing today. It's been 3 years and 2 months and has not been resolved to this point.
That's fun.
It is fun. So in October of 2025, my commission made the decision to go ahead and move our staff up there. That was all that was left. The machines were there. The equipment was there. State of Tennessee had long since vacated, so we moved, and we've been there since October of 25.
Okay. I did lose track of a couple of those details. I honestly, I guess I just wanted the will to believe that it had already been fully resolved.
I could will that. I would agree wholeheartedly.
So tell us a little bit more. The machines, that was a Tennessee state decision to go to this paper.
Correct. That was passed by the legislature back, and they gave everyone till 2024 to do that. So, of course, all the vendors scurried around to get that ready, and our vendor was no different and got the product together and got the case together and the machines. Well, like I said, it went from someone being able to load an election into their car to we now have U-Haul vans that we rent to take the equipment out just because it's so large. Yeah. And because you made the point, our population has grown. When I was first administrator in 2011, we had about 80,000 voters. Now we have 140,000. So it is significant.
Wow, 15 years. Yep, that does track. And it is one of the, there are a lot of challenges that come with being such an attractive place to live.
It is. And Rutherford County is just off the scale. They're about 35% growth since 2020. They actually had to do a new census. We're about 8%, which is not shabby. But White House, for example, is the 10th largest growing city in the state.
Really?
Yes. So we're experiencing growth.
Interesting.
In just places that you wouldn't necessarily pinpoint, but we have to be able to adapt to that and be able to vote those voters when they come to the polls.
Thank you for illuminating that for me. I think, I have a lot of data points around our growth and, the pressures that it's causing. White House, I certainly know it has an attractive proposition, but I didn't realize that it ranked so highly. That's really, it just adds another layer of complexity.
Right. And then we, of course, split a lot of municipalities with other counties. Goodlettsville, we share with Davidson, Millersville,
Right.
White House, Portland, Cross Plains, we're with Robertson County. So that creates other challenges as well, because it's a little, it can be confusing to some voters. If you live on one side of 31, you're in Sumner, and if you live on the other side, you're in Robertson.
Right.
So we manage that as well.
Why don't you talk about, some of the things that people might not realize go into the planning and preparation and they really a lot of these things that come back to the integrity of an election, the bipartisan oversight, the just the audits and the security that goes along with those machines. Help listeners understand a little bit more about everything
we do. From planning from day one till the election, the end to certification, always involves members from both parties, both Republicans and Democrats. This is from locking the provisional bags, and that's where we vote our military and absentee, other people that they can't get to the polls because of health reasons, or they're going to be out of the country, or CDL driver, something like that. All those people can vote absentee. We have those bags have to be secured. There's always a Democrat, an election commissioner involved in that. We verify the locks and the seals when they're locked before anything goes in them, and before they're opened on election day. They're verified again by a Democrat and Republican election commission members to make sure those locks and seals are the same as when they put them on there. So there has been nothing changed in the bags. Likewise, in our provisional bags that go out on election day, a Democrat and Republican election commissioner lock those. And they likewise unlock those and verify that those locks and seals are the same. All of our voting machines are tested that go out, every single one of them. A zero tape is run. That shows there are 0 votes on the machine. That's run when it's programmed. And then on election morning, before the machines are ever put in place for use, another one is run to show that there are no votes on the machine. And both the Democrat and Republican poll worker sign those tapes showing that there are no votes on that machine.
Machines are not connected to the internet.
They are not connected to the internet.
So that means each one is programmed individually.
That's correct.
Actually, that just hit me.
Right. And there is no port. I've had people say, I know it was connected because I saw it plugged. It's plugged into a cradle router, which is basically a battery backup, if we were to lose power. But there's not even a port to plug it into the internet.
Wow.
So by design.
Fun.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of names. And especially a May or a March ballot every 4 years. There's a lot on those ballots.
In May, we vote every office in the county except assessor of property, because according to the state of Tennessee Constitution, the assessor cannot run at the same time the trustee runs. And it kind of makes sense because they handle all the county's money. You don't want 2 new people handling all the county's money. So the assessor runs in the second off year. Right. But everyone else in the county runs.
May and March elections are notoriously low voter turnout.
They are, and a lot of people don't understand primaries.
Yeah.
And I explain this over and over. Primaries are a mechanism of the parties. In other words, if the Republican Party did not call for a primary, we would not have an election. If the Democratic Party did not call for a primary, we would not have an election. That is a mechanism of the parties to decide who is going to be their candidate to run in the general election. So a lot of people will show up and they don't want to tell you what party they're voting
in.
But they have to because it is a primary.
Right.
You rarely ever have a general and a primary. We did this time, which was the first time since I've been administrator, because Portland did their sales and use tax referendum, but it was only for the residents of Portland, Sumner County side. So that was the only general on the ballot. But a lot of people say, I should be able to vote for whomever I want. But the truth is, a primary is a mechanism of the parties, and if you participate, you have to choose. And then in August, we have the general, and you'll again select, your candidate. And the August is then the primary, state and federal primary for November. And then in November, you don't choose either party. You can vote however you see fit.
Right. I don't know why this just occurred to me. So if in August I only want to vote in the general election, may I do that? Or
you can, and so independent candidates will be on there as well. So you can choose to vote for an independent, or if there are general offices on there, you absolutely can.
But if you choose that you want to vote in the county general but not the state primary for some reason,
you can. And I've had this question a lot. If you only want to go in and you're passionate about one office, whatever that is, you only have to cast one vote on that machine for your vote to count.
Yeah, it is. That's
and a
an
lot of
important
people
point.
feel intimidated if it's a very long ballot, or there's a lot of state constitutional amendments, or they feel intimidated and don't want to go vote because they don't understand them. The judges is another good example. We're voting on judges in West Tennessee and East Tennessee. We don't know those people. I'll be honest, I don't know those people. And people don't want to cast their vote for someone they're not sure, they don't know the background. So it is a little intimidating, can be, but you can, if you don't feel comfortable voting for someone or an office, you certainly don't have to. Just skip it.
Just skip it. There is a cost to all of this. And not that I don't expect you to put a dollar sign on it, but when the parties call for a primary, is it a cost of the party then to enable
you would
the
think
work your office does?
But it is not. It is not. It is absorbed by the individual counties across the state. Elections are very expensive. And as I was telling you earlier, we're there whether the people show up or not. We have to be there. If you want to come and vote, we have to be there.
Right.
And the criticisms we get, there were too many people there. Well, it's kind of like going to Walmart. Sometimes you go to Walmart and you walk right up to the register or the self-checkout. Right. Out the door you go. And sometimes you go and there's 20 people in line. It's hard for us to predict, but we have to be there because people also don't like to wait in line. If they have to wait too long, they'll leave. And we don't want to see that either.
Yeah, totally. Well, nobody waited.
Well, no.
this last election, but that's and I am encouraged to know that maybe it won't be too much longer that we are continuing to the state constitutional amendment that I'm starting to refer to. I'm sure you're really well aware of that. I know it's come up before, and I believe that they plan to bring it through session next year, in the next couple legislative sessions, so that in our next, not this year's, but the next governor election, there would be a proposed state constitutional amendment to remove or to move the county general back to align with the November elections.
It just makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense for voter turnout. It makes sense financially. It makes sense in terms of voters truly understanding the process. And it's been discussed for, I know, at least a decade. So I do hope to see that pass. It just is what needs to happen. I will tell you, when early voting was first discussed many, many decades ago, the Republicans and the Democrats couldn't decide who it was going to benefit most. So that's why they kept dragging their feet. And they finally figured out it was neutral. It didn't benefit one side or the other, so they finally passed it. And 50% of our voters in Sumner County vote during early voting. Yeah. Roughly 50%. So
almost every time too. I've done a lot of data analysis.
It is pretty steady. So we that is critical. So this is likewise. They're trying to weigh the costs and the benefits, but I don't see any negative whatsoever. Yeah.
Anything that surprised you when you look at the data points from the precincts or from the voter turnout?
Well, it was lower. We had hoped it would be around historically 14 to 15%, and we came in a little over 10, and that was disappointing.
Yeah. Anything that stood out to you as a...
I think voters are frustrated. There's a lot of negativity in our county. And I can't just blame Sumner, because Tennessee overall runs typically about 47th in the country for voter participation. And that is sad. We have been last, but it just makes absolutely no sense to me. We have, it doesn't seem to matter education, financial status, location. It just is, we just don't vote in Tennessee. And I think that's sad.
It's really sad. Yeah.
And we've done a lot in Sumner. We're one of the only counties in the state that we do satellite voting. We go to our municipalities. We go to Gidletsville and White House and Portland and Westmoreland. We've expanded early voting into the full time in both Hendersonville and Gallatin, which are our largest voting blocks. I mean, we have really, my commission has done everything that we know to do to be able, when people say, well, there's really no reason not to vote. I mean, we've got 2 weeks. You can do absentee election day. And a lot of people, I've heard people say, well, I just want to vote on election day. I've heard people say that it doesn't count. I can assure you early voting does count.
Yeah, especially when it's 50%.
And it just feels better. But inevitably, the kid gets sick, the dog gets, whatever happens and they don't get there, or you get stuck at work, or there's a wreck, So I always tell people, if you vote during early voting, even if you get hit by a bus, your vote counts. So early vote.
Nothing morbid about that at all.
Right.
You just want to make sure we're good citizens.
Absolutely.
There's work to be done, and I am really grateful for the steady leadership that you have brought.
And again, I have a phenomenal team and a phenomenal election commission. We were very fortunate as well that our commissioners typically, it's a unanimous vote because we all do it right, and they're all a part of it, and they know we do it right. And everybody's goal is to fulfill the obligations of the statute and to provide services for the voters, and everybody's on the same page on that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it is very demanding work, and there's a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attention, and I am sure a lot of stress involved in pulling it off. So I guess we'll kind of close with this. Why do you continue doing it?
I keep trying to quit and they won't let me. It is very important. It is to have the right person in this job, to have the right election commissioners in this job. It is critical to the foundation of our community, our government, the way we live our lives. I tell everybody, you can pick up the phone and call your alderman, your city council person, your state rep. You can't pick up the phone and call the president. So it is extremely important that everything starts at where you live. And that's why it's so important that people get out and vote. But I can't speak for anywhere else in the country, but Tennessee does it right, and Sumner absolutely does it right.
Yeah, no doubt. Do we need a little shout out to all of I know there's some volunteers, but you have...
There are no volunteers. That is a common misconception. We do.
Sorry, thank you for correcting me.
We do pay our poll workers. It is not near enough, but we do pay them. Every poll worker goes through training by state law, and of course, it's just the prudent thing to do before they go and work the polls. And but election day is a minimum of a 15-hour day. By the time you're there 12 hours, you get up, get dressed, get there, get home. It's a 15-hour day, and it is grueling. And they don't do it for the money. It is a true, heart of service.
Well, and that's where I was headed with the shout out is the number and just the genuine personalities that I have seen time and time again that are there working those polls. And you probably could always use some more people, maybe not volunteering, but volunteering to be on that list of low-paid employees.
Absolutely. We're always looking. There's a lot of turnover in poll workers. Our workers are typically a little older. That's just statistically the way that it works. And a lot of them are retired, so they have the time to do it.
Right.
If you're working a full-time job and you've got kids and a dog and life, it's hard. But so we do have an older base, but they do a phenomenal job. There have been people there longer than I've been administrator working elections as poll workers. But we always can use new people, and we will train you. You don't have to know anything in advance. We will train you thoroughly to make sure you can do your job. And it is a very, very rewarding experience. And you do get to interact with people in your community throughout the day.
Yeah.
And they know that you're there to serve them, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful process. And we encourage everybody to give us a call and sign up. But call Annette, don't call me. No, she handles our poll workers.
Yes, thank you. You know what? The shout out for Annette and the team.
There you go.
And an incredible crew of servants that you bring together.
Again, very blessed.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Till next time, August.
There you go.
Get that August 6th date on your calendar.
vote.
Or early voting. Yes, never mind. Forget August 6th. Just vote in July
Go vote.
and get it done.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.